paper. Okay, so then you'll get it like this. You do not have your cover involved in this at all. Oh, and actually, I'll pull this forward. When you're doing this, you need your paper to come off the edge. Let me redo this. See how that will happen to your own paper if you don't protect it. You want your edge of the paper to come off the table about 1/4 of an inch. So now I'm going to put these back on here. You don't want it more than that because then the edge will get too flimsy. But about 1/4 of an inch off the edge. Alright. And if you're using books, you would line the books up to the edge of the table, but still have the paper come out a little bit beyond it. So now what we're trying to do is get this edge to where when we put glue on it, it's going to become a bound edge and you're not going to have individual pieces of paper that come out. So, never done this sitting down before. Okay, so then you're going to take your X-Acto and you're going to make thin little slices going one way, all the way down. Now, this kind of has a gradation because of how I folded this. But you'll want the edge to be completely flat.
Even.
Yeah. So you'll go down. There is not a way to do this too much. So you don't want to be cutting into the paper, but you want to chop it up and kind of going at an angle to the left.
Sorry.
All the way down. All the way down. So right now, because this is a gradation, there's some edges I don't have access to, but that's because I didn't carefully do this. So. Then now you go the other way. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
And that's just to help the glue
get
in there
there.
more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this part will be covered up with the cover, so don't worry about you're not going to be able to see this. So you may even want to put the knife just perpendicular to it, not even at an angle like you're used to holding pins. Okay. Just get in there and make the X's, the cross hatching. All right. So once you feel like you kind of have that so it feels rough, I mean, it shouldn't feel just like your straight edge of paper. Okay. So get that, and if you guys want to feel that now, you can feel the ridging that it put in it.
Oh, yeah.
So once it's rough like that, you can even go a little bit rougher. I'm speeding this up. Then take your Sobo glue. Does anybody have that? Okay.
There you go.
All right. You can do it with a paintbrush. To me, that took more dexterity and I wasn't worried about my fingers.
I mean, it washes out, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I've never opened it. I don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got some neutral pH glue. That's like the same, right?
I'm not sure.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to make sure it doesn't have water in it.
Yeah. Sobo's, it may be. I'm honestly not sure. So, because pH has nothing to do with water or not.
Okay.
Okay, so then you'll get a generous amount. You can start anywhere. And you'll just start pushing this down on the edge. You want to make sure you don't get a raised bump on the top of the paper. So you can get it can get up there. Just put as much as you want. And then you can kind of go back through. You'll want to try not to go too far into here. So sometimes I would take even wax paper and put it up just to the edge.
Oh, good idea.
You know?
Okay.
You kind of get crafty with this. This is not nearly enough glue. So, there. All right. Get on the whole thing first. That takes a second. So ideally, if you're printing at home, which you guys weren't, so we had to estimate on the spine width. Ideally, you would get the spine width yourself, and then if you're printing at home, then adjust your cover so that your spine is exactly measured to what you bound this to. But it won't be an issue. All right, so you want to go through and make sure, like on the top and the bottom, that this whole thing is covered with glue. Now, this is a pretty thin layer. It probably needs to be just a little bit thicker. So I'll just get just a little bit more.
And do you let this first application dry and then come back with a second? Or?
You'll have to, sometimes, you in theory shouldn't need to, but in the event that you put too little, like if once it dries you can see like separations between the pages, then you'll want to do it again.
Okay.
But you will let this dry before you put the cover on it.
Well, yeah.
So you go through. I think you can speed this drying up with a blow dryer.
Oh, I meant to bring one. I forgot.
It's okay. I don't think it would have sped up for necessarily in time for here, but probably overnight at least to let this set for the binding. Now, make sure we get as much of the excess glue off the top as we can. I may have even had too much of the paper over the edge this time, but it's a fine line between making sure you have room to work with the edge and then, you know. So you get this like this, let it dry, and then when you are putting your cover on it, it's up to you which way you feel more comfortable with it being less messy. Some people prefer to put another line of glue here and then hold up the cover and sit it on the inside. Or some people prefer to put the glue just a little bit on the inside spine of your thing and then put the pages in. It's sort of what you feel comfortable with.
What's your habit? Or preference?
I usually put it on here, but because I feel like less extra gets on the spine, but it really depends on what you kind of feel comfortable with.
I like
So-
the little one inside of
So once you do this and you put your cover back on it, you'll have to find a way to rig. You may even want to push it up against a wall or something so that there's pressure pushing the spine, the cover to the spine, and then books on top of it, and then you'll let that dry.
And about how long does it take to dry? 30
I
minutes
can't
or
remember
so?
with the Sobo. Let me see.
No, I guess I could write that.
Well, I don't even know if it says. But this stuff, yeah, it's flexible as well. Won't yellow. It doesn't say. I can't remember. It's not like forever unless you like gooped it on there. Like this would probably take a few hours. But
Oh, really?
I really don't remember.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, leave it
Just
alone.
don't mess with it.
Because it's kind of
Give
white.
it a good.
It'll
Yeah.
dry clear. So if,
Oh,
if
okay.
it's not clear, then it's
don't
not
touch
dry.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
like it dries. You can kind of see around the edges of my hands where it's starting to dry.
Oh, right.
Like it dries clear. Like,
Okay.
and so then, like I said, the trickiest part is finding somewhere that you can push the spine up against the back of the wall to get pressure there, and you may even want to put a book right here, you know, pushing it up against the wall so the spine and the cover connect, and then a book on top. But
Okay.
just make sure that your book is always protected with paper, wax paper, you know, from whatever's touching it, because stuff
Lots-
happens.
Smudges happen.
You guys have questions?
No, that was a lot less scary than I thought.
It's not. This is the easiest way to bind books.
The
hands
easiest
down.
way is to go to Home Depot and let them do it for
Yeah.
you. I'm just kidding.
This is the easiest way. Japanese binding, once you learn how to make the holes, is pretty fun.
Is that
too.
spiral? Is that
No,
what you
that's
mean?
literally
Oh, that's sewing?
like sewing now.
Oh, someone just the other day was like, I can do this kind of binding. It was the sewing the outside. And she's like, but I can't do the other kind.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
probably
oh,
just what you've been taught.
Yeah.
So, in theory, you should be able to do both. So,
Okay.
so yeah, you'll see why this needs like books on top of it still, because it just needs to stay flat in the center, and you can't get a grip here.
So you put books on as you burn?
I usually
With
put all
the
the
wax.
books on first, like before this part of it. Like put a stack of books that's really heavy. That way I can move this and just get it. This might be even a little too far off the table. You know, get it as close to the table as you can. You can't have it right up on there, or else you wouldn't be able to score it. But this is probably a little too far off because I can do that.
So now just
No, you won't want the books to be over where the glue is. You want the books to end where the edge of the table is. So that way you've got a sandwich between the edge of the table and like the books, and you'll just have like that much out that you're like.
Are you thinking about how you're not going to get glue on the books because you can just
No.
keep I'm
Wax
just
paper.
kidding.
I'll say, wrap
I know,
paper,
wax
you and
paper.
wax paper.
Right.
No, I'm using these axes. It's cool, but options. So is it gonna create this wavy?
Not if you've got books on top of it.
Okay, so just on. Okay, good.
And that wouldn't
there
be
were-
visible anyway
So
with
there
the
were
binding,
two issues.
right?
The reason we got waves here, there's two issues. One, this wasn't a solid crease. Like these pages weren't lined up. The edges I scored wasn't like a stack of thinly cut paper.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is these clamps. I wasn't careful when I put this in about making sure there was no like wiggle. I was just kind of showing you guys how to do this.
Right.
So when you have books, you'll have a really nice straight edge, and then you'll have it flat. If you do get any of this, it'll be so minimal because you'll have the books up to the edge that it won't matter. And so you'll just make sure, like, see, it's really thin, but right now these aren't separating. Like if you get in here, you know, these pages aren't separating. So this actually will make a stronger edge than you think. Now, once you get it bound, don't play with it a lot. Like opening it, like, look what I made. It opens and closes because this is, you know,
It's homemade.
yeah. So, and the critique panel will be just for stuff. You don't have to worry about that.
Oh, good.
Unless there's somebody crazy, but everybody's truthful, I know.
Oh.
So, and part of this too is that this paper is so thin. Like, this is thinner.
Thicker
than
paper
what-
wouldn't warp as much. Okay.
No, and like the first thing I ever perfect bound, and you may even want to practice if you want something to practice on, was a stack of note cards. We were doing a flip book that you had to like animate each like thing, so that when you flipped it, it did a little thing. And that was the first thing I ever perfect bound, and ended up thinking it was really thick. So if you want to practice first before you do it on your own book, practice on like a stack of note cards or something else.
Okay.
Because this also wasn't as thick. Your stack of paper also wasn't thicker than that.
As far as I guess,
Yeah.
how do we explain?
Yeah, so what I would say is, like, for our introduction to typography class, we really focused on learning about how to structure type from a hierarchy, like with hierarchy, and the importance of that, and getting consistent ways cues that viewers can know that when paragraphs or subsections are starting, and just say, we in order to be able to learn like the full production side of InDesign, we started with an annual report that was already designed, and then we made tweaks as needed that we felt enhance the design. But you can explain that this was a purely an exercise in learning type production and learning about setting different type hierarchy using styles and learning consistent ways that you cue in the reader to the different chunks of text that are happening. So, and I think, because people may get into like, I like the use of these illustrations. Why didn't you use photographs or whatever? Just say, like, that's a great suggestion. If that's something like that comes up, it's a great suggestion. This time we were just focusing on learning the robustness of InDesign and didn't really have time to get into as much of that, but I definitely see what you're saying, and thank you. You just kind of don't
Keep it rolling.
Yeah. Just be like, thank you, I see what you're saying.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, I think you need to make it clear from the beginning that you had one of these to go off of, and that we reset it, learning how to, the importance of, if you want to get into like how to set point size versus your column width, and when to know that you have the correct point size set for how wide your column is, Because each of you, even though this is the same layout, each of you has different point sizes and lettings. Like, you all worked on that your own to get it to look how you felt was
Still works.
appropriate, So I think that you say, like, the layout was done, but then within that we massage the type and the point sizes and things ourselves to get it to set to what we believe is pleasing. Yeah. And when you're talking about books, you don't have to talk about the whole book and then get it to them. So the common, like the natural inclination, especially when you're nervous, is to like look down at your work while you're talking. Like, you've seen this stuff
Right.
too many times. So just make sure you're not just like staring at your pages. With the annual, I'll just say, like, this is an annual report we worked on. learning the production aspects of type, and I would just flip like, blah, 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 we did this, and then hand it off, and then you can keep talking about it. But the thing is, if you talk about it for 2 minutes and we're just sitting there, like, you'll kind of want to hand it off. Now, I'll go ahead and prepare you. Most of the time you're talking, they're going to be looking down, looking at other projects. Like, people rarely are going to be sitting there, like, looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. Like, keep going. That's just how it is, so they can focus on your work. You'll usually have just statistically one panelist who doesn't really write while you're talking, who may just be like listening the whole time. But a lot of times, and I myself included, we'll be making notes the whole time. That way I don't forget, especially if it's projects I haven't seen before, so I don't forget what I want to say. So just be prepared that might not feel like a captive audience, even though...
Not a very personable
Well, yeah, I mean, they're just maybe
to
looking down at writing, and
They're
they'll look
doing
up at you,
something
but
else.
it's not going to be like watching you present. And then, that was one thing I wasn't prepared for. And I was like, everyone's listening. It's just, so, yeah. And I think it's totally fine to, say like, hey, I was like at the beginning or end. Like, I'd never even turned on a Mac before, so being able to do this was really impressive to me. Like, I can't wait to learn more. I think it's really fine to be honest about where you are. Now, if something is not where you want it, do not go in with, I'm not happy with this, I don't like this is not good.
Right.
Because people will notice that on their own, but the second you say that, I'm going to quit listening or even looking for the parts of it that are good. Like, I'm just done. Like, it's just a natural
Right.
reaction. So
You just
don't
brought
set
me your
yourself
crap.
up. Yeah, and if they say, like, God, it looks like the type wasn't really worked on with this, not this project.
Mm-hmm.
Or, the craft on this is really bad. It's like, yeah, that's really something I'm working with. I'm going to practice over break, but if you have any specific suggestions, I'd love to hear it. You just kind of keep it.
I think that's mine.
What?
This?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is yours too?
No,
Oh.
this was in my back pocket.
Looks like they lost their
Oh, you took it out while you sat down?
Yeah,
So.
I thought it would be a good idea.
She's been coming out every now and then to work on that T-shirt, something.
But really, I mean, it's going to be the most anticlimactic 25 minutes of your life. You're not going to remember most of it, especially first quarter.
It's probably best.
No, I mean, really,
Just
you're going to walk
teasing.
out there and be like,
What just happened?
yeah, I mean, it's really anticlimactic. Like, the most important thing is to be there and appear confident. Your stuff's never going to be perfect. Even the quarters you have your best quarter, you're never going to walk in and be like, yes. So just be there on time, have it together. It's fine to just be honest about the situation without talking so negative, without, like, setting it up or, like, self-loathingly. It's just a conversation. It's just for you to practice presenting. And that's it.
And,
We're done with the instruction, right? I can turn this off.